Start.
Hey, so tonight Sterni wanted me to speak about Yud Shvat. It's a very special date in like a Chabad calendar, in the Lubavitcher calendar, and it passed already, but it's still a special date. So because we couldn't meet before, we said tonight we're going to speak about Yud Shvat and we're going to explain why it is so important and what we can learn from Yud Shvat. So as you can all know, you all know Yud Shvat is actually two very special, like even three very special dates into one day. Yud Shvat is the Hiloulah of a very big Tzadik, the Yahrzeit of a Rabbanit Rivka, so that's back then. And then in 1950, that's the passing of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, sorry, I'm like thinking about my son. Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, and only 1 year later, the Lubavitcher Rebbe that we know, the one in the picture behind you, he became the Chabad Rabbi, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, everyone, like people call him the Rebbe. When we call the Rebbe, we speak about him. And he was the latest Lubavitcher Rebbe. So all like these three very important days, they all happen on the same day. And I think it's really interesting that it's your birthday tonight, because it's, I mean, or it just passed.
It was on Yud
Yud Shvat? Yafeh. And mine was last week, I told you, it was Shvat.
Yeah.
So like
So it was Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday.
It was, so what? Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. So it's very interesting because for us, for everyone, a birthday is a very special date. It's not like just any day. We celebrate birthdays. We celebrate the day we came into this world. Why do we celebrate our birthdays? What's so special? Because first there is this idea of akarat hatov, that we have to always thank, we have to have gratitude, to thank people when they do something good to us. And Hashem gave us life, and the day of our birthday we remember that we received life from Hashem. So we have to say thank you. So that's one reason why we celebrate. There is another reason why we celebrate, is because on the day we were born, we realized that Hashem put us into this world to give us a very special mission. And every year we have to think about, why am I in this world? What does Hashem want from me? And every year we realize it with a different meaning, and every year we try to put some new strength, some new kochot, some new how would I say that? Some new initiative, some new efforts into doing our mission, into succeeding into that mission. And we have to feel very proud, because if Hashem put us into this world, it means that we are very important, that He needs us. So it's something that is very, very special. And we say that there is a lot of customs that you do the day of your birthday. One of the customs is that you take upon yourself a new mitzvah. If someone was not lighting candles, she's going to light candles. Or, everyone, of course, has to choose their own mitzvah, something that speaks to them. But you add something. And it's the same idea as thinking that Hashem gave me another year of life. So how do I thank Him? I thank Him by adding a new mitzvah. Because when we do a mitzvah, we connect ourselves to Hashem. The more mitzvah we do, the more connected we are to Hashem. So that's like a lot of very important elements of birthdays. But for Tzadikim, it's different. They don't celebrate their birthday that much. I don't know if you heard about a party for the Admur of something. It's not like really the day that they celebrate. We barely hear it. But when they when they leave this world, the day when they left the world became like Hiloulah, a Yahrzeit, a very special day. So it's totally different. For a Tzadik, it's when he leaves the world, the same day becomes a very, very holy day. It's a day we go to the kever, to the tomb, and we pray and we ask for blessings. Why is it so special? Why is the day of their passing? So now they can concentrate on themselves.
Yeah.
No, it's because, really, on this day, the Neshama of the Tzadik shines stronger. If you want to really understand the idea, before, when the Tzadik is in this world, the Tzadik is in a body. And the body it's limited. You have a limitation of space, limitation of time. You're just a human. But once you just leave your body and you go back to being Neshama, there's no more limitation. There's no more time, no more space. So you become you become stronger than what you were before. You have kind of like, now you can be in the whole world, everywhere at the same time, all the time. It's way different. So the Tzadik becomes way more present into this world. And that's why the day of Hiloulah is such an important day. So on the 10th of Shvat is the day of the Hiloulah of the previous Rebbe. So it's a very special day. And we say that for a year after he passed away, they kept begging the Lubavitcher Rebbe, the one that we know, Menachem Mendel, and they kept telling him, please be the Rebbe, you need to lead us. And he refused. And it's not something bizarre that he refused. They say it was kind of a custom that most Lubavitcher Rebbe, they didn't want to be the Rebbe. They didn't like the honors, they were not into that, they were more into being very modest people, very low-key. So they never wanted the efforts. The only Rebbe we say who it was known from the beginning that he would be the Rebbe was the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, because his father told him, you will be the Rebbe when I die. You are the one who will be the Rebbe. So it was very clear. But all the other ones, there were 7 total, all of them, we had to convince them to become Rebbes. They didn't want the honor. They all were fighting to give it to the other person. So for 1 year, all the Hasidim, all the followers, they were like begging him, please, be the leader, be the leader, be the leader. And he refused completely. After a year of begging him, he finally gave them hints that yes, he would do it and he would become the Rebbe. So some Hasidim, they didn't want him to back up or whatever. Right away, they were so excited. They bought an ad in the New York Times. And they put in the New York Times that he became the Rebbe. And when he saw that, he told them, move it away. They said, no, we chose you as the Rebbe, so now you have to become the leader. And that's the story. They say that from this time, the Rebbe became the Rebbe. And it's a very special day. It was also the same day, like a year later, so 1951. And he was kind of forced into that. And of course, as Rebbeim do, how do they celebrate this passing? How do they celebrate of becoming a Rebbe? By saying Dvar Torah, by saying words of wisdom. So 1 year before he passed away, the previous Rebbe, he started a discourse that he never finished, which is called Bati Legani, which is a sentence from Shir HaShirim, which says Bati Legani Achoti Kala, and like a lot of Sfaradim, they read that, they know it by heart, which means I came to the garden, to my garden, Achoti, my sister, Kala, my bride. And it's the start of a nice story about a groom and his bride and the love and how they kind of fight and they separated from each other and then they go back to each other. And it's really an allegory. It's really like we compare that story. It's not a real story. It's just a story that we compare to the Jewish people and God. Exactly, and Hashem. And we say that it's the same story. We are like, we were with Hashem and then we came into this world and then sometimes we feel disconnected from Hashem. We're not that connected to Him. And sometimes we come closer to Him and it's like this love story, push and come back and it's the same story. So the previous Rebbe started explaining all this, between what's between Hashem and the Jewish people, but he never finished it. So when the Rebbe became Rebbe, that's the first discourse, that's the first subject that he started to explain. And when he started talking about it, it's very interesting that he chose this verse, because his verse says, come to my garden. What's a garden? It's a place where you have trees that bear fruits. That's a garden. If not, he would have said, come to my field. There's other words that day. But when you say legani, gan, you mean like a tree and that has fruits. And fruits are something that are very special. In a fruit, what do you have? You have a billion other fruits. Why?
Seeds.
The seeds, exactly. Inside the fruit you have the seeds, and the seeds are the future. Why? Because you're going to plant them and they're going to give trees, and trees are going to give fruits, and fruits are going to give trees, and trees are going to give fruits. That's the cycle of life. That's the continuity of life. That's how life is actually passed from one person to each other. So when he chose this term and this story he said it on purpose. The idea was like, yes, the previous Rebbe is not here physically anymore, but he left us the fruits of his world, like of his work and of his world, and we can actually use these fruits and fructify them and plant them and grab the seeds and make other trees and make other fruits and continue his work. It's not something that we have to stop. We have to continue that. And it's very interesting. It's the same idea that we see when we speak about Sarah. Sarah Imenu, when she died, we call the whole parasha about the death of Sarah, we call it Chaye Sarah, which means the life of Sarah. And there is this very I question, how can you call a parasha the life of Sarah if all you speak in this parasha is the death of Sarah? She's dead. She's not alive. What do you call it? Life of Sarah. That's it. And we explained that in the whole parasha, it's true that we say that she's dead, blah, blah, blah. But we also talk about her son, Yitzchak, who got married to Rivka. And we explained that Sarah had 3 very special mitzvot that were all the time, like she was lighting the candle, she had the presence of Hashem, the Shekhinah, all the time with her, and the chalot. They were fresh bread and very yummy bread, like that was like all week long. And we say that when Yitzchak married Rivka, these 3 mitzvot came back, these 3 mitzvot stayed. And we explained why. It's because he was a continuity of Sarah's life. Sarah's life was not in vain. Sarah's life was still here. It was continuing. She was not dead. Why? Because her kids, her descendants were continuing her work. So we know she's still alive. And it's the same story here. The Rebbe was telling us, we are continuing the work of the previous Rebbe, of our ancestors, of all these rabbis, of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Abraham, of all these people that were before us. And we here to continue this work that never stops. It's like fruits. You always, always, always plant. That's life. You never stop. So the Rebbe was all into that idea, into teaching people that you have a very, very important mission into this world. But at the same time, the Rebbe, at the same day, he said it very clearly. He told people, you have to realize that I'm just a Rebbe. Of course, we smile now when we know all like what he did, and we don't know, I'm sure, yet everything that he did. But when he said, I'm just a Rebbe, I can do my part of my job, but you still have to do your job. Like my work is worthless if you don't do your job. Everyone has to make efforts. Everyone has to work on themselves. Everyone has to try to accomplish their mission. I cannot be the only one who's here praying and you just expect me, to make everything happen. And he gave, on the same day, he gave a very nice comparison. He said, when Moshe Rabbeinu built the Mishkan, the Mishkan was a small temple they had in the desert. When he built the Mishkan, he could have built the Mishkan by himself. He didn't need anyone else. But on purpose it did not. Why? Because he wanted every Jew to have a part in building the Mishkan. He wanted every Jew to feel special, every Jew to participate. So he didn't do the job. He did a little bit of the job and he let everyone do some of the job. So everyone is connected and so that everyone is actually, together doing the job. And the Rebbe said it's the same story. The Rebbe is not going to do the job for everyone. He's going to help you, he's going to push you, but you still have to do the job. And when you do this job, first advantage is that you continue the mission that Hashem, gave you. But the second advantage is that you have itkashrut, you get connected to the Rebbe, and of course through Hashem. But you get connected to the Rebbe because when you do the Rebbe's mission, it's like you're basically his emissary, his shaliach. That's how they call these people. And his people, I can tell you, they are truly connected to the Rebbe. And I'm going to share with you a story that happened to my dad, who is one of the shluchim of the Rebbe.
We like your dad stories.
What?
Your dad stories.
Oh yes, that one you'll see. That one I remember it very, very well.
I like the one with the Chanukiah.
Oh, so this one is the new one. That one you like it too.
School.
I told you that one.
Where's the camera today?
Yeah.
No camera.
That the guy said he saw the Rebbe gave him a tour. So here, listen to that one. My dad in his school, of course, like every shaliach almost, had financial difficulties. It was hard to pay the rent. It was pretty expensive, and you had to pay the rent month after month, and you don't really have that much money coming in, but you have a lot coming out for all your programs, all your stuff, and your kids and your school. And it was so difficult. So every month, almost, he was late in paying the rent. And the landlord didn't have that much patience for him anymore. He wanted him out of the building, and you just wanted to get rid of him. But my dad was doing his best. He was paying whatever he could, and he couldn't really get rid of it. So the landlord started some, legal procedures. And soft, it happened that my dad had to go to court. And that was after there was no other choice, okay? We couldn't find any more money. We couldn't convince anyone else. What I'm telling you is that we were at the last resort, that we tried everything. The landlord won everything. There was nothing else that could be done unless paying the debt right away, and the money was not there, so that was not an option. Or go to court, and obviously in the court we'll lose because there's no money, we're wrong, we're late all the time, so there's nothing to do. So that was Friday night, and my dad, for the first time in my life, I remember that I saw a tear on my dad's face. First time in my life. My dad is a very happy person. I've never seen him cry. And we're on the Shabbos table. He stands up to do Kiddush, and we have a nice picture of the Rebbe. And my dad has the cost of the Kiddush, and he starts Kiddush, and he thinks in his head that he's going to lose the building and all this kids and all his work and his Bet Chabad and everything. And he's like, it cannot be. That's what he's telling himself in his head, and he cannot hold it. And there's a tear. I remember, that really marked me. I see this picture, the tear that rolled down to the Kiddush cup. One tear, and I see he's looking at the Rebbe, and he stops, he puts the Kiddush cup down, and he said, "You sent me here. You've got to help me." And he said, "That's it. Now I'm happy. I talked, Rabbi, you sent me here, please help." And he's like done, that's it. He's like, there'll be now, as we say, it's over.
Yeah.
And he finishes Kiddush, smiles, do the Shabbat, everything normal, smiles, everything is good. And Monday, of course, he has to go to court, first thing. Sunday, we get a call. My dad had two boys that he had brought back to the tshuva. He made them, do the tshuva. And these two boys, they were on vacation in New York. And of course, Sunday, these two boys go for $1. They said, "You know what? We need to get $1 from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, from the Rebbe." So they go for $1. And when they pass through the $1, the Rebbe looks at them and says, "I want you to give $1 to your rabbi." So he's like, "My rabbi? There are a few rabbis in my city." He said, No, your rabbi." He said, "Rav Lachiani?" He said, "Yes, that's for Rav Lachiani. Tell him it's my $1 for him." So the guy says, "Wow," he leaves. He said, "I didn't even tell the rabbi I was from the city. How did he know? I'm from Grenoble." So he calls my dad, and my dad is like, we see my dad being white, sitting down, and he hangs up the phone. And at this time, it was not easy to call, okay? He's hangs up the phone. He said, "My God, guess what happened?" He tells my mom, "The Rebbe gave $1 to this guy, Victor Amouyal, whatever that was his name, and Frédéric Perez is the name of these two guys. He gave them $1 for me." It's like he knows someone heard him. He's connected. Yeah. So he's like, "Whoa, okay. Okay, tomorrow is going to be a good day." The next day he goes to the court, and in France the courts are they are very Catholic, so you had a big cross at the entrance, and it was a small door on purpose, so you have to bend to get in. And my dad said, "I'm sorry, I'm not going through the door." So they said, "Oh, you have to go through the door. There's no, you don't tell us what to do." My dad said, "I'm telling you, I am a rabbi. I'm not going through the door. I cannot, in my religion, we cannot have idols, so I cannot bend. I'm not going through the door." Big scandal. So finally they agreed to have him go around through a different door that only judges and lawyers. Finally goes through the other side. He goes in the court, sits down. On the other side there is a big team of lawyers, of the landlord. Everyone is ready. And then the judge comes. And my dad looks at the judge and says, "But I knew this guy. He was one of the Jewish judges who was coming once a year to the synagogue for Yom Kippur." But my dad remembered him because maybe he put filling on him once. So my dad almost went to say hi to him. And the judge is showing him very clearly, "Don't come, thanks to me." So my dad goes back to his place, doesn't say anything. And the judge says, "Okay," he lets the landlord side speak, and then he tells my dad, because of course my dad doesn't have money to pay a lawyer, so he came by himself. So he tells my dad, "Okay, what do you have to say for your defense?" My dad said, listen, he's right. I didn't pay him on time. I'm trying my best. But look, you know what I'm doing there? I'm only trying to teach kids about kindness. I'm only trying to teach kids how to do good deeds. I'm only trying to do my best to have great citizens and kids who really learn, good things. I'm trying so hard and I'm so sorry, but I'm trying really hard. And the judge turns to the landlord and says, aren't you ashamed of yourself? How dare you can do this to this rabbi? How dare you can do this to these kids? You want these kids to be on the streets? Come on, do something. And the landlord is like, almost like in the nightmare. He's like, what? The judge, I'm expecting you to do something. So what are you doing about it? So he said, I'll just wait for the rent. Exactly, wait for the rent. And the funny story is that a couple more years, the landlord waited and waited and waited for his rent forever. Of course, he was paying him, but always, there was always late. At the end, he went to my dad. He said, "Do you want to buy the building? Please." So we ended up buying the building for less money, and now the building is in the center of the city and is like booming. Of course, they're not gonna sell it, but it's a booming area. And just how the Rebbe is so that far, And he just hold on to this building. I'm going to help you. You're right. So you see here, what I'm trying to tell you is that we are connected when we do a higher mission, when we do the job that we're given, we're connected to the person who gave us the job at the first place. The Rebbe, that's really what he wanted to say on the first day when he became a Rebbe. He said, in Chabad, the emphasis is not about the Rebbe, okay? I don't want the honors. The emphasis is about the Hasidim. What? How are you going to change? Are you going to change? You guys all, like there were in the room, there were maybe, 1,000 people for this first discourse? Are you going to change? That's really the question. And today, when we remember this special date, that's really the question we have to ask ourselves. It's such a big rabbi. How did he impact our lives? How are we going to change? That's really the question we need to ask ourselves tonight. What can each of us do? And it's very easy what we can do. He was really big. His mission, I think, was very clear. Bring Mashiach. He kept telling us that we were the last generation before the Moschiah. And he kept telling us that, I know you don't believe, some people didn't believe it. He told them, open your eyes, like almost they had their eye closed. You don't realize it, but we're so close to Moschiah. We're so close to this era of peace and happiness. And that's, the reason for the world that was created. We are close to Moschiah. And some people told him it's impossible. If you look behind us, there were so many bigger rabbanim than us. There were so many just and nice people and shtetls, and they were like so pure and holy. And look at us today; we're not that pure and holy. And the Rebbe always, reminded people about this story. About this, there was this big giant who was trying to go and pick. There's a couple stories. I always mix them. But that's the idea. There's this giant who was trying to pick up some fruit, but he was blind, he couldn't see. And then this dwarf who could see, but he was so small, he couldn't pick up the fruits. So what happened? The giant put the dwarf on his shoulders, and both of them, they were a team. They could do a lot of things. So to people who say that, oh no, we're not holy enough, we cannot bring Mashiach, that's not true. We're like a dwarf, that's true, we're not that holy. But you know what? We're on the shoulders of all the giants that were before us. So we're pretty high up and we can do a lot. We just have to believe in it. The Rebbe always tells, I know my father opened like a book of the Rebbe this morning, and he told me he was on this letter that said that there's nothing that is out of reach. The Rebbe was telling someone, there is nothing that you cannot do. If you put that idea into your head and you believe it, there's nothing that you cannot do. Nothing. Everything can be done. And the Rebbe not only was telling people that, he was living it. I don't think there's something the Rebbe said, I'm going to do, and he didn't. If he thought something could be done, he would fight for it. Like when he told people, you know what, let's go to the streets and go put tefillin on people. Everyone told him, you're crazy, Everyone told the Rebbe, and all the big rabbanim said, oh, that's asur what you're doing. It's so bad. You go to the streets, and you're going to expose yourself to all these bad people. But the Rebbe was right. By going to the streets, by reaching to people, so many people were able to actually connect to Torah, to Judaism. They didn't know anything. So many people changed their lives thanks to that. So he was totally right. When you want to do something, even if it seems impossible, you can still do it. You just have to want to have the goodwill. And there's something that is another story about the Rebbe. That was not with my dad, this one, but it's a very good one. There was this person that was always sitting sometimes at the Rebbe's, when he was giving classes, the Rebbe, there was thousands of people, and most of them like black hats, black coat, everything black, and white shirts. And this guy didn't have a beard, didn't have the costume, but he was always there. He was always sitting there as much as he could. And he was always coming from London, from England. He was an English businessman. And he was staying there. His name was Max Sketch. Always staying there. So once a guy told him, "Tell me, why are you coming so often to the 770, to the synagogue of the Rebbe? Why are you so interested to listen to the Rebbe's talks and everything? Even if you don't understand Yiddish that good, why are you coming here?" He said, "I have a very special story with the Rebbe. You want to hear it?" Of course, he's never going to say no. He said, "Yes." So a lot of people, gathered around him. And he started telling his story. He said, "I came once to see the Rebbe a couple years ago. And when I passed in front of him, the Rebbe told me, 'Tell me, you're a businessman?' I said, 'Yes.' He said, 'Do you want to be my business partner?' So imagine the Rebbe asks you, you say, 'Yes, of course I want.' So the Rebbe took $200. He said, 'Okay, but before I give you the money, do you realize what a business partner is?' So he said, 'Yes, it means that we take decisions together.' He says, 'Yes, and it means that if I say no, you don't do anything without me. And likewise, do we agree on that?' So Max said, 'Yes, Rebbe, we agree on that. We're business partners. I don't do anything without you. You don't do anything without me.' So the Rebbe said, 'Okay, we're good. That's my participation.' Gave him $200. And he said, 'Now listen, I want you to buy this type of fur.' He gave him the name of a special type of fur. 'I want you to buy this type of fur. Can I trust you with that?' He said, of course, I'm going right away.' He left the Rebbe and he went to his, his a supplier, and he bought some of this type of fur. He came back to the Rebbe. He said, 'Rebbe, I bought some.' The Rebbe said, 'How much?' He told him. The Rebbe said, 'I thought you were a serious businessman. That's what you bought.' 'I meant way more than that. That's not good enough.' So I'm sorry. Okay, no worries. I'll go buy more.' So he went, he bought a lot more. He came back to the Rebbe. He said, 'Rebbe, I bought a lot more.' The Rebbe said, 'How much?' He gave him the number. He said, 'I thought you were serious. That's not what I'm asking. I wanted you to buy a lot more.' So he went back. He stretched all his credits, like in the U.S. He called his banks in the U.S. Every much dollar he could get, he took it. He went back to the supplier. He bought whatever he could, fur. He came back to the Rebbe. He said, 'Rebbe, I think you're proud of me this time. I have bought I took all my money in the U.S. I bought everything.' The Rebbe said, 'I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can't you wire money from London? Can't you ask your son to ask the bank and wire money and buy more? Be serious about it?' So the guy said, 'Really, Rebbe?' He said, 'Yes, we're business partners.' So he said, okay. He went back, he called his son, he wired more money, everything he could.